Hello, writers, and welcome to session 5 of Write That Book Now writing course. And so this session is about silliness and about seriousness and about writer's block that we all have from time to time. And it's not just in writing. So we all have many decisions to make, whether we buy this can of soup or that can of soup, whether we marry this person or whether we divorce that person, or whether we have a holiday in Antigua or a holiday in Zimbabwe, or all sorts of things. Do we take this job or that job or whatever? We're constantly bombarded with decisions. And much of the time, I should speak for myself, much of the time, we find it hard to make the decisions. We can't get the answer or the correct answer. And one of the problems is, of course, that everything we do is based on our past. What happened last time? So when I was 5 years old, I didn't like broccoli. So I'm not going to like it now. So don't give me any new broccoli now that I'm 94 or whatever. And people with a certain accent, I didn't like them in the past, or I did like them. And when I hear that accent again, I react as if they were the people from the past. So every decision we make for the future is based on our past experience of that kind of thing. So we can't help but bring our past with us. So sometimes when we're stuck for a decision, it actually requires us to kind of disconnect and reset. So I'm sure you've heard of Wim Hof, the great bearded Norwegian guy who leaps into cold water, freezing water. And he explains it, or other people explain it this way, that when the vagus nerve, which kind of goes down the back of our brain and down our neck and down the backbone and all sorts of other places, when that is frozen, even momentarily, it kind of resets and it undoes whatever's sort of been going on for us in the past, in the last days, whatever worries, whatever situations have been going. It's a way of resetting the body physically and getting us sort of set up again. It's like a restart on a computer. And so when we are in a situation of indecision, we can do the same sort of thing in other ways. And there's lots of little tricks we can do. So one of the things I used to do and used to encourage the kids to do, even when we're driving somewhere or when we're standing somewhere, whatever, and a way to kind of let whatever's going on go, it's about diverting the mind, giving it something else to sort of feed on. And often it was nonsense. So one of the little games that I used to play with myself and have my kids play is go through in your mind and think of something for every letter of the alphabet. So what do we got? Apple, bat, Crimea, D. I don't know. Drinking, E, excellence, F, furious, G, whatever. Just doing that when you're driving along, it somehow undoes, or it kind of, whatever track your mind's on, it falls off. When we do something mindless and silly, it kind of does the same thing that the cold water does on the vagus nerve. So there's lots of little mind games we can play with ourselves. And so the same with writing. So when we're stuck on something, one of the things we can do, particularly when we're writing something serious and something that's very close to our heart, sometimes there's a sort of blockage because so let me put it another way. It's easier to think of things when we're having fun. When we're in a classroom where everything's jolly and it's the teacher's being funny and it's light and breezy, our minds can take things in much easier. When it's serious and boring and arduous and hard work and stressful, the mind kind of closes itself in and it's very hard to absorb new information. It's hard to absorb what's going on. So this lightheartedness opens the brain to more creativity, basically, and to be able to absorb almost unexpected things coming in. Be open to that which is not from the past. To be open to inspiration and things that are less logical, things that are you wouldn't otherwise expect to come into your mind. Things that, wow, how did I think of that? Oh, that's amazing. Where did that come from? That kind of intuitive spark happens when we're in a either peaceful place or happy place, or both. Peaceful, happy. Our mind's kind of open to the bigger intuitive world. So when we're writing a particularly heavy piece of work, let's say heavy, something that's serious, it might be something that's particularly, that really, really either annoys us or it touches us in ways, it brings up tears, it brings up whatever emotion, something that's really close to us. And we might be writing our memoir and trying to describe something that happened, or trying to describe a feeling, or trying to describe a person that was close to us, or a person we didn't like. Either way, when it's a serious matter, it's possible at times for our brains to sort of not quite collapse, but kind of lose the ability to think poetically, creatively, and to have those unexpected thoughts. When we're doing serious stuff, our minds tend to sort of close down and stick with cliches and ordinary descriptions, and we tend to run out of words that are really, really describe what's going on. So we can get very stuck with serious things. And one way of getting around it, well, there's several ways of getting around writer's block. So I'll just take a step back for a moment. So some people think that one of the ways of getting through writer's block is to walk away. Whatever project you're on, walk away, leave it for a day, for an hour, for a month, for a year, for a lifetime. I don't know. Walk away, and in the clear light of morning, the next day, the next year, the next whatever, the ideas will come. The inspiration will come. I'm not a great believer in that one. I think inspiration, I tend to think of it a little bit like a child, in that when a child misbehaves, let's say a child has a tantrum in the shop or something, or does something very dysfunctional, when they're upset and they're being a child, and doing what they're not supposed to do, we don't disown them. We don't walk away from them. We don't stop feeding them and housing them and whatever. We still nurture them. We still look after them. We may have to deal with the moment in whatever way we do, but we don't abandon our children when they become dysfunctional. And my suspicion is that inspiration is very similar. That if we abandon it, then it kind of goes away and starves. It sounds a bit harsh. My experience is that sometimes there is no inspiration. Sometimes it's just sitting down and doing the really boring, hard work, the grind of writing something. And it may not be what you end up writing. It might just be a load of drivel. What Oh, did I leave the washing machine on today? Oh, did I lock the door? Wonder what we're going to have for dinner tonight. I wonder where I could go for a holiday this year. I think Turkey's a nice place. They say it is. If I go to Cappadocia, I haven't been there before, or whatever. Just write, drivel, whatever comes into your mind. Da 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 da. Keep the pen moving. Keep the pen moving. Drivel, drivel, drivel. And if we keep the pen moving, after usually a fairly short time, we discover that our pen is actually writing something useful. And it may not actually be the story that we started out writing. We might be writing a memoir. And this errant pen is now started to write sense beyond the silly thing that we were writing. It might be a short story, or it might be the end of our memoir, or another part of the memoir that we actually aren't working on right now. And my suggestion is just keep writing. And if we allow ourselves to keep writing, whatever, we might, be talking about our memoir and talking about 1987 or something. We're trying to get through this, and then suddenly the pen goes off, and it's now in 2012. Something happened then. Allow it to do that. Allow it to just kind of have fun, because you're going to be writing about 2012 at some stage, so why not now? And if that's where the inspiration is, allow it to be. So the other thing, apart from writing drivel, is to write silliness, which is probably drivel anyway. So one thing we can do if we're really stuck, if we're really upset, or if we're really full of emotion, and that's kind of blocking our creativity, we can just have some fun. And one thing we can do is write limericks. And we can kind of cheat. We can take nursery rhymes and turn them into limericks. I mean, I just thought of one before. What was it? Mary had a little lamb. His face was smeared with jam. It made lots of noise and broke all the toys, and then ran off with the nearest big ram. So we can take an existing nursery rhyme or existing poem and just play with it. Just make something really silly. Who was the sat on a tuffit? There was a young lady called Muffett who went and sat on a tuffit. What was it? Along came Jimmy Snyder. I don't know. Just playing with. So, and sometimes when we just have a little bit of fun and spend 10 minutes writing a couple of limericks, it kind of loosens the brain. It lets that barrier that angst sets up, kind of lets it all drop. And so that is one of my suggestions for getting through writer's block. So in line with that, our mission today, and I ask that you send this to me, is to do three things. First of all, write a silly limerick. Just make it up. And you can start with Old King Cole was a silly old soul. I don't know. What other nursery rhymes are there? There's all sorts. Jack and Jill went down the hill, and Jack felt quite a great pill. I don't know. So your mission is to write 2 limericks, as silly as you can make them. They don't have to rhyme. They don't have to do anything. Just write something really silly. Write 2 limericks, and then write something fairly serious, and make it about either an emotion or an attribute. So when I'm talking about attributes, I mean things like integrity, trust, honesty, or dishonesty. All of those kind of values, if you like. Choose either a value or an emotion, which could be anger, or it could be peace, or it could be bitterness, or it could be joy. So choose either an emotion or an attribute and write around about 500 words. Doesn't matter if it's more or less, just that's a general target. So just try this just as an exercise. Write 2 silly limericks. Where's my fingers? There. It should have been over there. Oh, that's there. This is backwards. Write 2 silly limericks and then write something serious or fairly serious. Choose either an attribute or an emotion and write 500 words about that. And just see what happens to your writing when you've done the silly thing and then do the serious thing. And that, my good writers, is the mission for this week. And I wish you all the fun of writing and sending it in to me. And have a wonderful week.